Editing comprises of basically two different steps. The first part is organization, and then it's the actual editing of the photos. I'm going to walk you guys through how I organize all of our content so that when we're editing it, we know exactly where everything is. Let's hop onto our computer and we'll show you guys how we structure our folders first. We go to our drive here, Stargazing Homes, Footage, Pictures, AZ, Post Build Out, and then we have all edits and selects. You're going to throw all of your photos in the all section right here. And then you're going to have edits, empty, selects, empty. The selects is basically the best shots that you want to edit. We don't want to edit all 300, 400 photos. We only want to edit and spend time on the ones that we're actually going to use. So basically the first step is to go through all of the photos and move the ones that we like into the selects folder. Once we get the selects, then we'll edit the selects. So I have two windows open right now. We have this one and we have this one. We're going to change this window so we can see all of the photos in a carousel format. So you see all of our photos. Again, this is all of the raw content that we're going to be moving into the selects folder. And this way I can just scroll like this and see exactly the photos that I want to snag into our selects folder. Typically when I change a location, the photo right before I move to a new location are the best photos. That allows me to kind of skip through the whole scrolling each photo and kind of see a new location. So you can see like this to this is two different shots. If I go to the tail end, this is pretty much going to be my favorite one. You can see shadows here that we're going to fix, but I like this one. We're going to drag that into the selects and we're just going to go through all of these. So, I mean, we could start off with the first one or the second one. Now, if you remember when we were taking these, you have my car shadow. So we're going to scroll to later photos when I moved that car. So like this, for example, super nice. We're going to move that to selects. Make sure you get a full cup of coffee. Boom. Yes. And again, we only need one or two per the angles that we like. You could see that these are all different angles. So I'm going to look at these last four and see which ones I like the most out of these. And as you can see, when I drag from the all folder to the selects folder, that photo disappears from the all folder. So you're not duplicating the photos, but you're literally moving the photos to a different folder. Again, this saves so much time in the editing process. Keep in mind, these are not just for the Airbnb, but also for social content. So you're going to be wanting to snag 2 or 3 versions of verticals and then 2 or 3 versions of horizontals as well. You want to err on dragging more photos to the selects folder than not enough photos. So if you like it, drag it. All right, so we have just finished moving all of the photos that we like into the selects folder. A total of 98 selects out of over 370 photos total. So having to edit 370 photos is a nightmare. Having to edit 98 is a lot easier. All right, so we got another cup of coffee and we are ready to edit the photos. We're going to open up Lightroom and this is going to be the first thing you see. As you can see, I've been editing photos of how it would look without any furniture or anything. So we're going to disregard everything that's on the screen. This is starting fresh. We're going to go to File, Import Photos and Video, and then we're going to go to our folders. So as you can see, we're going to go exactly where we put the selects. So AZ Post Build Out, selects. And here are all 98 selects that we have moved from the all folder to the selects folder. As you can see, if you press all, you can go to all of your photos there, but we're only going to bring in the selects. These 2 photos are blurred out because I've already edited those 2 photos. We're going to press import. So as you can see, it's importing all of our selects. And then once this is done, we're going to go to the develop section. And as you can see, all of our photos are right here. We are going to start off with our first ones. So this is the way I edit photos. People edit photos in a bunch of different ways. By no means am I correct. This is just the way I do it. With that being said, let's jump right into it. First thing I want to do, there's a vignette on this, which means, as you can see, this is brighter and then around the edges, it's darker. I want to fix that first thing. When you shoot on a 16 millimeter, that tends to happen. So we want to correct that. And you want to scroll all the way down to lens correctness, able profile correctness. As you can see, it automatically makes everything the same brightness. Then we're going to scroll all the way back up and we're going to fix the white balance. White balance is basically changing the temperature and tint so that it's correct in the photo. What you're going to want to do is press this eyedrop button and go to any section that's white. There's actually nothing in this that is supposed to be white besides the clouds. Now that has turned everything a little blue. I want to correct that just a touch and bring it back to more of a yellowy orange color. And the first thing I want to do, because the home is black, is I want to bring up the shadows. That allows everything to be visible, all the nooks and crannies of the home. Then I'm going to just kind of adjust my highlight shadows, whites and blacks accordingly based off of the photo that I'm editing. So I typically like bringing the highlights down, the shadows up, whites a little brighter, and blacks just a touch. Now there's a give and take you want to do here with blacks and contrast. So as you can see, what the contrast does compared to what the blacks does. I like typically leaving the blacks where it is and moving the contrast a little bit more. So now we're going to bring down to texture, clarity, and dehaze. I'm going to bring the texture. As you can see, it kind of softens everything, but with landscape, texture is totally fine. Clarity is the same thing, doing less clarity and more texture. Again, this is personal preference at this point. Dehaze makes things a lot heavier and more saturated and contrasty compared to the other way. So I typically like to do the dehaze a little aggressively, bring down the clarity, and then adjust the texture accordingly. I like working in reverse. So dehaze, clarity, and then texture. One last thing is I typically like bringing the saturation down, but the vibrance up. That's, again, personal preference. So I don't like playing too much with the tone curves just because it's a pretty advanced tool. You could play with it, put one in the middle, and bring this section down, which basically makes it a little bit more contrasty. But this is where you get a lot of fun. Going into the color, you're able to change each specific color's saturation and brightness. With the landscaping, I like moving from the sky down, so we'll start with the blues. I like a little bit of a brighter blue, and then seeing how that contrast works with the blue. Making a little bit brighter, maybe the contrast up a little bit. That looks good for me. And then you want to go, I move into the oranges there. When you're shooting sunset, these oranges are going to play very harshly. So I like bringing this down a little bit more to a red and then unsaturating it just a touch, which I think that makes the home pop a little bit. So now I'm just going to go back and forth. Now, when you work into your yellows and greens, those play a lot to each other. I like popping out the greens just a touch, so I want to move this. As you can see, this would make the yellows more red, and this would make the yellows more green. I like going a little bit more on the green aspect because I think it pops again. If it was sunset, magenta and purple would play a really big, crucial role here. Again, as you can see, magenta and purple with no sunset isn't a huge factor. Now, calibration is really where like the professionals get into the nitty-gritty. If you really want to go into the nuances, this is where the amateurs become professionals. So I really like this photo. One last thing is it's a little too contrasty for me, so I'm going to bring this down just a touch. Just makes it, I think, less animated and a little bit more real. I like this. So this is how I do it. Anything that's in the same time range / setting. So if it's an exterior shot around the same time, I would just copy and paste what we've already done into the photo and then adjust each photo from there. So what I'll do is on a Mac, Command C, copy, drag to all of the same settings. Now you can see around here, we start getting into real sunsetty stuff. We'll just drag all of this. Then we're going to press sync, synchronize, and that has posted all of the settings into all of these photos. The sync button doesn't work sometimes. I press Control V and it pastes all of the settings onto it. So now you can go to the next photo and see what it's pasted, and you don't have to redo everything that you've just done to match the photo, but you can basically just copy what you've done. Again, this one's a little too contrasty, so what I'll do is I'll bring the dehaze up a little bit and the contrast down just a touch. For example, this one, I really like this shot, but it's a little rotated. So what I'll do is I'll go up here, back to my transform section, and I'll just rotate this puppy just a touch. Now, you can see if you press constrain crop, it's going to crop it automatically for your rotation. If this is not set, I'll give an example, and I rotate, that's how it should look because that's what's level, but you have these white borders because the photo has been moved. If you press constrain crop, it'll just basically move in the photo so that there's no exterior white border. So now we're just going to keep on doing the exact same process that we've done before on all of the photos. We're copying the settings, and then per photo, we're going to just do the little changes here and there based off of coloring and lighting. As the sun starts setting, you're going to be losing a lot of light. When you lose a lot of light, what it does is basically makes the photo very noisy. And what I mean by noisy is grainy and like kind of gross. What you're going to want to do is manually noise reduce that grain. So if you look at this photo right here, this is super grainy because there's not a lot of light, right? So what we'll want to do is basically noise reduce to bring those grainy and blur it. If you overcorrect it and make it too smooth, it'll look too dreamlike. It'll look very dreamy. So there's a balance between making it smooth and making it real. Now we're into interiors, baby. Interior and exteriors are very different. There's nothing that frustrates me more than shooting a white wall and it turning yellow, because that's gross. We could paste the settings and show you what it's going to look like ass. So we're going to get rid of that, and we're basically going to start brand fresh new how we did the exteriors first, but now we're going to move to the interiors. And again, we're going to be editing each photo individually, but pasted with the same settings from the first interior shot that we worked on. We're just moving through each photo, changing up here and there. Just like that, we have finished all of our editing of 98 photos. We're going to press Command A. We're going to File. We're going to Export. We are going to choose a specific folder. We are going to go to Stargazing Home, Footage, Pictures, Izzy Pose Build Out, Edits, and now we are exporting all of these photos. And that wraps up how to shoot your photos for your short-term rental, how to edit your photos for your short-term rental, and now we have to work on our copy for our listing.